Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to your astrological forecast for next week. My first one from Europe. Still getting over jet lag, but I will do my best with this video. So let's just dive in. And of course, this will be predominantly focused on the upcoming new moon in Taurus, which will take place on Tuesday or Wednesday next week, depending where you are in the world. So today is Friday when I'm recording this, and we are experiencing the first sextile between Mars in Aries and Pluto, now retrograde, in the sign of Aquarius. So this is the first aspect, like a major aspect they are having since their conjunction, which took place on February 14th on a Valentine's Day, and it's a supportive aspect. It's the Taurus flavor, which is helping us to discover what matters to us, what we made of, and how are we going to get where we want to go. So as I mentioned, Mars is in Aries, therefore in a sign of his rulership. Mars is actually preparing for the conjunction with the North Node that he is the ruler of, which will take place in just under 2 weeks. And Pluto is retrograde until October, and actually Pluto will station direct right before the full moon in Aries, ruled by Mars. So anyway, that's going in a completely different direction, but I just wanted to bring this out there because this is actually the last aspect that we are experiencing this week. Moon is in the sign of Pisces. Moon will move into the sign of Aries tomorrow. Mars will make a trine to Pallas, and then on Sunday, just Moon will make her aspects. Then on Monday, we are starting the week with Moon still in the sign of Aries, therefore new beginning, new direction. And on Monday the 6th, Moon actually will move into the sign of Taurus, preparing for this upcoming new moon. And on the same day, on Monday the 6th, we will experience the third and final conjunction between Mercury and Chiron. So we already had 2 of those. The first one took place on March 20th, which was right before the eclipses hit us, and that was when they were both direct. Then the second one took place on April 15th, which was exactly 1 week after the solar eclipse in Aries. It happened on the same degree, on 19 degrees of Aries, and at that time Mercury was retrograde. And as we know, as of April 25th, Mercury is now direct again, and this is the last and final conjunction between Mercury and Chiron in the sign of Aries. And this time Mars is in the sign of his rulership. Mars, as the ruler of Mercury and Chiron, is in the sign of his rulership, unlike the previous 2 times. First time they conjunct, Mars was in a sign of Aquarius. The second time, Mars was in a sign of Pisces. So this is a very potent conjunction, and especially because, as we know, Mercury play a very important role in all these changes that we are experiencing, because Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, and Gemini is about how we are perceiving this reality, about this multidimensionality of different timelines we have the opportunity to choose from, and Virgo is the hero's journey archetype. It's about learning and adjusting. So Mercury making a conjunction to Chiron 3 times in the sign of Aries, and it's all connected to the eclipse season. And now this last one is right before this new moon in Taurus, which of course plays a very important role too. This is very significant because it's helping us to see or tune into this new energy that we are now being introduced to, and to connect with it in a new way, Aries. And Chiron is all about the wounds that are being exposed, that are preventing us from feeling safe and secure to move into this new direction. As we know, is the insecurity and the fear of the unknown, which we are now facing, and trying to make a new choices under all circumstances, so we are no longer afraid, and we can actually trust that this new direction is presenting us with these new opportunities, new choices, new adventures that are going to be exciting and lead to something, new explorations of a horizon that actually is supporting us on our evolutionary path, right? On the same day, on Monday the 6th or Tuesday the 7th, depending where you are in the world. For me here in Europe now, it's going to be already on Tuesday the 7th. Sun will make an exact sextile to Saturn. This is again the first aspect between the two since they had a conjunction on February 28th. And this is again supporting us, even though in this case, because of the sun, and like I said, with sun things are a little bit different. Even though this is the first aspect, first sextile, Saturn is behind the sun, then therefore is like a closing sextile. It's the flavor of the closing sextile, which is the flavor of Aquarius, you know, the flavor of liberation before culmination of the cycles. And sun is in the sign of Taurus, which is telling us about the need to see our true self, our true value, our true essence of who we are, and reconnect with that. Therefore, the externalization of our power, Capricorn, the external authority, can be dissolved, because you are the creator of your reality, you are the authority of your life. So this is a supportive aspect that is once again supporting us on our evolutionary path going forward. Even though it means that something of that which we were attached to and comfortable with, which was a part of our identity until this point, has to be let go of, because Saturn, as we know, is in the sign of Pisces and is dissolving the old structure, the old definition, the things that previously made us feel safe and secure, but no longer resonates, because, as I mentioned, Pluto is going to have one more retrograde in Capricorn, and that's it. And once Pluto is done with the sign, it's dismantled. So that old structure is no longer going to hold in the same way. So that's why this Taurus is so important. And as we know, there is a grand Earth trine between Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. So Taurus plays a very significant part of this journey towards self-mastery. It's about this understanding who we are, and that we can trust and rely on ourselves. So anyway, but more about that when it comes to the interpretation of the moon, because of course all these aspects, as usual, that I'm naming are part of this new moon in Taurus. On Tuesday the 7th or Wednesday the 8th, depending where you are in the world, again, we're going to have the new moon in Taurus. For me here in Europe, it will be already Wednesday the 8th, early morning of Wednesday the 8th. And on the same day, on Wednesday the 8th, moon will move into the sign of Gemini subsequently, because this lunation is happening on 18 degrees, so quite later degree. It's actually the Virgo decan, right? The Virgo decan, again, about learning and adjusting. And as I mentioned, on Wednesday the 8th, we will have moon moving into the sign of Gemini and trining Pluto, because Gemini and Aquarius are both air signs, and they support each other, because Gemini is all about these choices, gathering information and giving us new options, and then Aquarius is about taking it beyond, going beyond. And as people might be aware, actually Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury, just like Neptune is a higher octave of Venus, and Pluto is the unconscious expression of Mars. Mars and Pluto are connected. So anyway, just a side note. So then we don't actually have any major aspects between planets and between planets. For the rest of the week, we will have aspects between the asteroids and the goddesses and the planets. So on Thursday, we'll have Pallas making a sextile to Pluto. On Friday, Venus will sextile Vesta. On Friday the 10th also, or Saturday the 11th, again, depending where you are in the world, moon will move into the sign of Cancer. So again, moon in her sign of rulership. On Saturday the 11th, sun will make a trine to Ceres, and that's it. Yeah, and once again, we will end the week with moon in a cardinal sign, in this case, sign of her rulership in the sign of Cancer. So that's technically it for the entire next week. So once again, we can see that there are not that many new aspects taking place. There are aspects coming into the degree, as I will be talking about with regards to the interpretation of the moon, that will be becoming exact later on in the month. For example, the Sun conjunction to Jupiter and Uranus, that will be happening later on in the month, already present during this lunation. However, there are no exact aspects taking place post this lunation, post new moon in Taurus, until the following week. Monday the 13th is when Sun will make an exact conjunction to Uranus. That's the first one. So this is a fairly quiet week, apart from this new moon in Taurus, which once again is showing us how significant this lunation really is. This seeding of a new energy with regards to Taurian archetype, which once again, it's about our, well, on a base core level, Taurus is about survival and preservation, but it's also about our relationship to oneself, and it's the reconnection between the human self and the spirit self, because the Taurus is the earth, is the density, is the tangible form. But what animates the tangible form is the spirit, right? Which is why we have a sextile between Taurus and Pisces and Taurus and Cancer. They are both water sign. They are both very deeply intuitive, and it's all spirit because it goes back to the water, back to Neptune, back to source. So Taurus is the one in between. So the form is being animated by the spirit. Without the spirit, without the soul, there would be no life, right? No animation. Therefore, even though you might think about Taurus just as something materialistic or something, like that is just needs to be held and touched and seen, but it is much bigger than what we can see. Because just like our human form, yes, we can see this body, but actually our soul is so much larger than our human form, right? So anyway, just once again, another side note. So yeah, so like I said, with regards to transits, that's it for next week. So now if we just dive straight into the Taurus new moon. So this is closing a cycle because, as I keep mentioning with the lunations, new moon closes the cycle of the previous new moon because it's the 360 degrees, the wheel of the zodiac. So full moon is the midpoint, new moon is the closing of a cycle and beginning of the new cycle. So this new moon, as I mentioned, for some of us it will take place on May the 7th, which is Tuesday. For the rest of us it will take place on May the 8th, which is Wednesday, which will be the case for me here in Central Europe. It will be at 5:21 a.m. And it will take place on 18 degrees and 2 minutes. And this new moon will actually make a conjunction it will be happening in conjunction with this Uranus-Jupiter conjunction. Uranus and Jupiter are still in a conjunction, in a degree conjunction, even though we now know they are in a new phase because they had the exact conjunction on April 20th. That's when the cycle resetted, cycle that began between the two of them in 2011, but between the two of them in Taurus in 1941. So cycles within cycles within cycles. So this new moon in Taurus is happening in conjunction with Uranus and Jupiter, and also in conjunction with Venus as the ruler of the new moon in Taurus. So this is very significant because Venus is the ruler of the South Node, the one that we're trying to resolve and evolve. And also Venus is in the sign of her rulership. So Venus is very strong, and so is Mars as the ruler of the North Node in the sign of his rulership. So as I started saying, this new moon in Taurus, current one, is closing the cycle of the new moon in Taurus that we experienced last year on May 19th, 2023, on 28 degrees 25 minutes of Taurus. And that one, technically still happening in conjunction with Uranus, but it was a little bit wide orb, 9 degrees, but still, still valid. But in that case, Uranus was behind the Sun and the Moon. So Uranus was in a closing phase conjunction with the Sun and the Moon. And now Uranus is in a new phase conjunction. So this is what changed. Also at the time, Jupiter had just entered Taurus. Jupiter was on 0 degrees and 47 minutes of Taurus, and Jupiter at the time was still closing to Uranus, even though very, very far degree, but already in the same house. And Jupiter was also closing to the North Node at the time in Taurus. So we can see a lot of things had to take place in the past year. Also, as we know, the nodes had shifted last July from Taurus and Scorpio to Aries and Libra. And like I said, recently we had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which happens only every 14 years or so. So this is not something that we experience every year. And all this had to take place for the cycle to close, with this Uranus in a closing phase conjunction to the new moon. And now they are both, Jupiter and Uranus, in a new phase conjunction to the new moon. So something has reset. Something is starting anew. And also important thing to mention, which I mean, Jupiter obviously was not the ruler of, of the moon or anything, but Jupiter at the time already, as I mentioned, on 0 degrees of Taurus, was at the precipice of a T-square between himself, Pluto, and Mars. And what's interesting about this is that at the end of this year, especially since the new moon in Scorpio until early next year, Pluto and Mars will be in opposition again. They will be in opposition. So it will start with Mars being in Cancer, then Mars will be in Leo, and then Mars will go back to Cancer. So at the time of the new moon in Taurus 2023, May 2023, Mars was on 29 degrees 26 minutes of Cancer, and Pluto was already, of course, retrograde as well, but Pluto was already in Aquarius. So we had this opposition, and then the square to Jupiter. Jupiter on 0 degrees of Taurus in a closing phase conjunction with North Node. What are the stories we were telling ourselves, and what are the stories that we were being told about ourselves that we then adopted and kept telling to ourselves? So there was this square that created a tension that needed to be resolved. And like I said, at the fall of this year, in autumn of this year, or spring, if you are in Southern Hemisphere, this will be coming around, because we're going to be having this Mars-Pluto opposition again. First, it will be between Pluto and Mars in Capricorn and Cancer, and then, like I said, Mars will move into the sign of Leo, Pluto will move into the sign of Aquarius, and then Mars will retrograde back into Cancer, whilst Pluto will stay in the sign of Aquarius from November 2024 until 2024 until 2043, and then it will move into Pisces and then back into Aquarius until 2044. So this is again something that we are trying to resolve, because with the Mars being in Cancer at the time, and Mars will be in Cancer once again when we have this full moon in Taurus, which will take place, let me see, on 15th of November 2024, Mars is trying to help us to see that we need to adopt a new identity. We need to understand who we really are. So everything that we've ever experienced and we were being told that we are is part of our journey, but that's not the totality of who we are. So Mars playing, well, making all these important aspects to Pluto from the sign of Cancer, and then subsequently it will be from the sign of Leo at the end of this year. Because as I mentioned in my previous videos, I mentioned this example, how we identify ourselves has a big impact on how we see our purpose to be. So the example I used previously was, for example, imagine being born in a royal family. This is your identity, this is the label you are born into, and now this is what influencing your purpose, your sense of purpose and destiny. Like nobody will go and ask these people like, hey, do you want to be a king? It's kind of like expected. Well, this is your destiny, this is what you were born into. So now imagine all these environments that we were born into and the labels we adopted because of these environments. This is what has a very heavy influence on our sense of destiny, what this destiny is. And then once again, Venus, as the current ruler of the South Node, and she was already the ruler of the South Node at the time, was retrograde in Leo last year. So she was making us to reevaluate. Is this really your purpose? Is this what makes you happy? Is this what allows you to feel authentic and self-actualize? And this year, at the end of the year, we will have Mars starting his retrograde in Leo. Mars as the ruler of the North Node. And then it will ingress back into the sign of Cancer. So once again, during the new moon in Taurus 2023, which is the cycle we are ending now on May 7th or 8th, depending where you are in the world, Pluto was in an opposition with Mars, and they both were squaring Jupiter at the time on 0 degrees of Taurus. Now we know Jupiter is moving into the sign of Gemini at the end of this month. So Jupiter is now at late degrees of Taurus. So we've gone a long way. We've gone 365 days, almost a long way to understand the stories. What are the stories? What are the, what is all this purpose? What is all this identity? What is all this thing about? What is all this structure? All this stuff that we've been reevaluating in this past 12 months. All of this is now being present during this new moon. Why? Because it's happening in conjunction with Uranus and Jupiter. So we see how this is very important. So this is why Jupiter is so important, even though Jupiter is not directly involved in Taurus in a sense of, well, it's not ruling Taurus, but Jupiter is still in the sign of Taurus, ruled by Venus. And at the time of the last new moon in Taurus last year, Venus was in sign of Cancer, therefore ruled by the moon, right? They had a mutual reception. The moon was in Taurus and Venus was in Cancer, and now Venus is in Taurus. She's in the sign of her rulership. So this is again very potent, very strong. And at the time, 2023 May, Venus was the ruler of the North Node, right? And now Venus is the ruler of the South Node. So what have we learned in the past year about ourselves and about our sense of trust within our ability to create, to survive, to be able to gather the resources that we need to move on, to move forward on this journey? Because as we know, Taurus is only the second sign, even though nothing is linear, in the higher dimension. But when we look at it astrologically from the linear, eye, Taurus is only the second sign of the zodiac. It starts from Aries, right? So we have the whole journey ahead of us. And now with this new moon in Taurus, like I said, this is supporting us in creating this new story. And we will have the Sagittarius full moon at the end of this month on a day of Jupiter-Venus conjunction, which is for another video, of course, but this is all happening this month. As I already mentioned, starting, with naming the aspects and transits, Mars will make a conjunction to North Node. This will again reset things. The ruler of the North Node will make a conjunction to North Node in Aries. New beginning, new cycle, new direction. So we can see how with every next lunation, we edging more and more forward in this new trajectory that we are now on. There is no going back. There is only going forward. And as of, what was it? What we started the year of new moon in Capricorn. So as of full moon in Capricorn and new moon in Cancer, we will be just experiencing the continuation of what happened this year. So there will be because the new moon in Capricorn already happened in 2024. We ended 2023 with the full moon in Cancer. So as of full moon in Capricorn, all the lunations, it will be the continuation of what already started in 2024 and then prelude for 2025. Then we will have, like I said, there will be the new moon in Cancer in July, which we will see the midway of in January 2025. So we only have couple of months left, and then we will no longer be seeing the illumination of something that happened last year. We will be already working with that which started this year from January 2024. So this is what I mean. We are starting completely different cycles over here, which of course is part of the bigger cycles. So nothing is ever taken in separation, but we are edging closer to the point we will be no longer talking about, oh yeah, the new moon that took place in 2023. No, it all will have happened this year already. As I mentioned, from the full moon in Capricorn, we will be talking about 2024 lunations only. The full moon will be the midway of the new moon that already happened in January this year. So at the moment of this new moon in Taurus, we are completing the cycle that began a year ago, but also this is starting a cycle which we will complete next year. With regards to the next lunation, which will be the full moon in Sagittarius, it's an illumination of something that got seeded in December 2023, but that will shift then in June, end of June. It's not so far away because we're already in May over here. So let's dive into this Taurus new moon that's happening now. So as I already mentioned, it's happening in a conjunction with Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. In the new phase, everything is new phase. So Uranus is in a new phase to Sun and the Moon as the new moon in Taurus. Jupiter is in a new phase, and also Jupiter is in a new phase to Uranus as of April 20th. Now, the exact Sun-Uranus conjunction, as I already mentioned, will take place the following week on April the 13th. And this will put then Uranus behind the Sun, which means that Uranus after that will be in a closing phase conjunction with Sun, because this is how it works with the Sun. Same thing with Jupiter. And the Sun-Jupiter exact conjunction will happen even later than that on April the 18th. But it's already present during this lunation, even though the exact degree will take place the following week. Okay, as I also mentioned, there is a conjunction from Venus. Venus is behind the Sun and the Moon, therefore closing phase conjunction. Venus as the ruler of the South Node in Libra, which is saying that we need to close this cycle of allowing other people to determine our sense of value and self-worth, which is what a lot of people in this world are struggling with, that we need other people to validate us, and whatever they think or say about us, we think is true. We adopt this as a true, and we think like, okay, because this person said this about me, then they are right, and this is now the truth about me. So this is what this Venus being in a closing phase with this moon, it's saying that this is something that has to end, because it's now making us feel disempowered. It's no longer is no longer desirable for the evolutionary trajectory we're heading into, because we can no longer be externalizing our power to the degree where the other decides what is our self-worth, our value, what is our sense of identity, destiny, and so on and so forth. This is not going forward anymore. This is not what we also because of the Pluto square to Venus, which is still active at this time, even though it already happened. It actually happened, yesterday, on the day when Mars moved into the sign of Aries, right? So that was on the 30th, right, 30th of April. Sorry, I just need to remind myself. 30th of April, we had the exact Venus Pluto square, but it's still active during the time of this new moon in Taurus, and this is the first quarter square. Crisis in action. Venus is behind Sun and the Moon as the ruler of the Moon, saying that this is something that needs to change. We can no longer externalize our power and look up to other people to determine our sense of value and self-worth. It's just not gonna fly anymore. The next thing that's happening, of course, as I mentioned, something that's taken place on Monday, only a day before, is the Chiron-Mercury conjunction, the third one of the three. And by the point of this new moon, of course, Mercury is already in a new phase with Chiron. And this is showing us that, yes, we need to start identifying reality in this different way in order to heal our wounds, to not see ourselves as wounded or unable to go in this new direction because of whatever took place in the past, but to use our wounds as our strength to actually make us more resilient, right? Which is also something that I already mentioned, that the place where there is a scar, the skin is actually stronger than the original skin. So this is all happening in the new phase conjunction with North Node, because we know Chiron and North Node had a conjunction in February. Mercury and North Node had a conjunction in March. So everything is going ahead. And like I said, Mars is preparing for his own conjunction with the North Node, which will take place on the 19th. Mars, as we know, still in a new phase conjunction with Neptune. Of course, Mars is in a new cycle with Saturn as well, but Mars is still conjuncting Neptune by the degree. So this we also had taken place on April the 28th exact, but it's still active. So Mars had conjuncting Neptune, closing the cycles that began in 2022 between the two of them, and it's saying, no, this is something that needs to end, this is something that needs to dissolve. And then, as we know, Mars moved into the sign of Aries, started a brand new cycle in the sign of his rulership. And as I said, this will become intensified once Mars will conjunct his own North Node. Pluto is actually making a positive aspect. It's technically trining Jupiter, even though it is a very wide orb still, but it is already within the degree. Pluto is trining Jupiter, and that's because Jupiter is now in a new phase conjunction with Uranus, just about to move into the sign of Gemini, as I already mentioned, at the end of the month, and Pluto is now retrograde. So Pluto is helping us to integrate everything that we experience, in the past 4 months, since January 20th, 4 or 5 months, to show us that, okay, well, this is where we head in. This is the new energy that we are now playing with, so we need to integrate it, because with Pluto, nothing is happening tomorrow. Pluto takes time. It takes its sweet time. And as I said, Pluto has one more retrograde into Capricorn to do the last of his, 15, 16-year transit over there. So the Capricorn archetype is dismantled in the way that we understand it previously. So that's why Pluto now being Pluto being in Aquarius, but Pluto being retrograde, it's giving us time to actually integrate that which we had learned since it re-entered Aquarius since January 20th, and saying that this is where we're heading, and what do you need to do, what do you need to adjust, especially with this square to Venus as the rule of the South Node, what needs to be resolved and evolved in order to feel supported in this new direction. And for that, like I said, it's required for you to trust yourself, know who you are, feel self-sufficient and self-reliant enough to know that you can create whatever you need to survive, and not just survive, but to thrive, because your body is animated by the spirit. The spirit is always present. If it wasn't for the spirit, we wouldn't be here. So anyway, so that's also happening. The exact conjunction between Venus as participant of this new moon, Venus and Sun, will actually take place in Gemini on June 4th, which is only 2 days before the new moon in Gemini. So as I mentioned, Venus is already close enough to this moon to be counted as a conjunction, closing phase conjunction, and Venus is the ruler, and the exact conjunction between Venus and Sun will take place next month on June the 4th. So Pluto is still making a sextile to Mars, even though, they moving away from one another. The exact Pluto-Mars sextile is actually taking place today as I'm recording this. And this is, as I already mentioned in my beginning of this video, this is the first major aspect, even though sextiles are not really considered as major aspects, but still they're more major than semi-sextiles. This is the first bigger aspect that they are experiencing between the two of them since their conjunction on February 14th, and it's a supportive aspect, and it's a flavor of Taurus. Mars conjunct Neptune, I already talked about this. This is out of sign. The exact conjunction happened 28th, 29th of April, depending where you were in the world, starting a new cycle, trying us to seek a new meaning and understand the meaning of the past cycles. And the important thing to also mention is that Saturn is making a sextile to this new moon. So Saturn is supporting, it's only 1 degree off, Saturn is supporting this rebirth of our relationship with ourselves and our sense of self, because once again Saturn now is behind the sun, which gives it the flavor of Aquarius, closing sextile. And as I mentioned, this is to help us to break free from the externalization of our power to external authority because of thinking that we're not good enough, and we need this external validation to feel so. So Saturn is supporting this because this new moon in Taurus is happening in a new phase conjunction with the Uranus and Jupiter conjunction. So we're creating a brand new story. Something is being reborn, and Saturn is supporting that, because we know that the way things were before, the way we structured our reality, the way we defined ourselves, our relationship to the external world is now dissolving. It's no longer holding a meaning, even though it did used to hold a meaning. And this is, without us going into victimhood and feeling like we were being done by, by some external forces, but everything happens for a reason. Everything holds a meaning. Sorry, I have to make myself more comfortable over here. So everything holds a meaning and purpose, but now we are at the point where we need to release that, because it's no longer in alignment, because Saturn is in Pisces in a closing phase to Neptune. So we need to release that which no longer holds a meaning. An aspect of that, as I said already, is our externalization of our power to the external environment, person, whoever, which we think has the power to determine our value. Just like in the old days, you were born in a certain country, in a certain family line, in a certain culture or religious background, and that determined your sense of value. That is no longer going to be the case going forward into the future, because we are now in the age of Aquarius, which is about equality. It's not about labels, which is again going back to this Mars-Pluto opposition between Capricorn and Cancer, and then Cancer and Aquarius, and then Leo and Aquarius, and this will be what we will be experiencing from fall until spring next year. So this is something that needs to be balanced. We can no longer be holding on to these old identities that made us feel disempowered, because we go back to the same thing. It again allows someone else outside of us to determine our value. And that's why, especially when Mars will be in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius, this has to be adjusted. It has to be adjusted, because it doesn't allow people to feel authentic and to feel like they can really follow their joy and their purpose that is in alignment with how they feel within, rather than the labels that they were being told that this is who you are and therefore this is what you need to do and follow. Just like I said, with the royal family, for example, being born into a certain environment which then predetermines your destiny, which again we can say, well, but the soul chose it, right? So in a sense, yes, this is the destiny that the soul wanted to experience. But once again, this all will be adjusted. It will not be just so black and white and cookie cut going forward, just because you are born into certain whatever part of the world, again, religion, skin color, whatever, that this determines your destiny. No, it doesn't. You do. So this is what is being seeded. What is being seeded is this completely new way of feeling about ourselves, which then creates a different relational approach towards the external environment, because Taurus and Scorpio come in opposition. We will never feel empowered if we feel that we need someone else to keep us alive. We keep ourselves alive. We are in charge. Doesn't mean we don't need someone else in our life. Of course we do, because we are social creatures and we came here to grow and evolve through interaction with other beings. However, our sense of value, purpose, and identity doesn't depend on these external things, right? So anyway, the other thing to mention is that we actually have a yacht formation. It's a little bit, the degrees are a little bit getting wider, but I still would count it, and that is between Saturn, the new moon. There is a sextile, as I already mentioned. Saturn is supporting this new moon, and the south node. So Saturn, new moon, and the south node. And of course, the finger of God is pointing to the south node, which is again in Libra, ruled by Venus in a closing phase conjunction with the moon in Taurus. So this is something that we can't see. We can't see who we really are and what's our sense of self-worth and what is this thing that now lost meaning and doesn't actually make us feel safe and secure anymore, because that's not how we were being trained. That's not how we were being programmed by this matrix that we are currently experiencing, which is again not to make us feel victimized or something, but it's just what it was, right? But this is not what it will be going forward, because once again, Mercury is in a new phase conjunction with Chiron after 3 conjunctions in Aries. Jupiter is in a new phase conjunction with Uranus and this moon, just about to move into Gemini, ruled by Mercury. And Gemini is all about the choice. It's all about our multidimensional selves, about tapping into different timelines, different versions of ourselves, which we have all access to. So that's why we can feel so confused, like I don't even know who I am, because I'm everything, I'm all these things. So with regards to the yod and pointing to the south node in Libra, this is not what we were being told. This is not how we were being brought up. This is not what we were being told to believe. We were being told to believe something different. So that's why we can't see it. We can't see ourselves. We can't see who we are. We can't see ourselves as spirit. that actually is the spirit, it's your higher self, it's your soul that is helping you to co-create your reality. It's not that person out there. That person just provides the feedback mechanism, right? So again, these are all really supportive aspects. So technically, we don't really have any really negative aspects, because like I said, Venus is already coming out of the square from between herself and Pluto. And well, we have the opposition between Chiron and the South Node, because of course Chiron is still in conjunction with the North Node. And yeah, some asteroid aspects. But apart from that, there is not really any significant square going on. It's all really supportive aspect. A lot of those are conjunction, which is new beginnings, endings and new beginnings. And also a lot of those are sextiles, which are supporting aspects that we will see developing over the time. Sextile is a fresh energy that we need to take an action on, because it's not just going to fall into our lap. It's something that we need to evolve. It's like an opportunity, but you need to grab it. You need to take it and run off with it and do something with it. And that's technically what Taurus is, because like I said, Taurus is the second sign, it's the Taurian flavor, like the crescent moon. It's always about deepening, like letting the seed grow, like having the intention and then letting the seed grow, like giving it roots, and also giving it the nourishment. Because with the Taurus, it's about the tangible nourishment, your food, your water and stuff. With Cancer, it's about the emotional nourishment, which creates the sense of safety and security, the nurturing, right? So with this being the new moon in Taurus, it's about how are we nurturing ourselves physically to take care of the form, so then we can expand further into the emotion, right? Into the Cancer. So anyway, all that said, like I feel like I'm going in circles here. So all that said, this is a seeding of a new energy with regards to Taurian archetype that is supporting us in creating of this new story, that is supporting us in breaking free from the outdated patterns of the stories that we were being projected onto previously, which served its purpose but now lost its meaning, and it's ready to be released and dissolved because of the Saturn in Pisces, sextile in the moon, and Venus in a closing phase with the moon, and Venus being the ruler of the North Node that is at the precipice of the Yod. So this is what's changing, that we are invited, and this is a seed that is being planted that will grow over the time. We will have much more clarity with the full moon in Taurus, which actually is taking place right before Pluto will move into Aquarius for the final time and then stays there for 20 years. We will have the full moon in Taurus on November 15th, and Pluto will move on the November 19th. So by the time of the Taurus full moon, in mid-November, which will be after the eclipses, after the new moon in Scorpio, we will have much more clarity with regards to what this means for us. And this, like I said, will be at the times of the Pluto-Mars opposition. And Jupiter will be already in Gemini, retrograde as well. So we will be reevaluating a lot of things going forward 6 months from now. But what is being seeded right now is this new energy that is helping us to reconnect with ourselves and see ourselves in a very different way, which is based on you determining that, not someone else. It's always been the case, but we didn't know, we didn't see, because it's not the way that majority of us were being brought up. So now this is changing. This is changing because the energy is ready, because Mars is in Aries, Venus is in Taurus, Mars is in a closing phase with North Node, Venus is in a closing phase to this moon, but at the same time there is already this new energy, because Mars is in Aries. It's making already first sextile to Pluto. Venus already made her first square to Pluto, and also Jupiter-Uranus conjunction with the Jupiter in a new phase. This is very important. The Jupiter aspect of it is very important because it's all about the perception of reality, because Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius that comes before Capricorn. Whatever you believe, you're going to manifest, and that goes down to Gemini, whatever thoughts we engage in with. The way we gather information, the way we process information, it goes through Virgo, that then determines our belief system, right? And that then creates our reality, and so on and so forth. Everything is connected, it's a cycle, it's a circle, and everything just jumps off each other. So anyway, so in a nutshell, I would say that this is the core message of Taurus new moon, even though, because it is happening in conjunction with Uranus, again, there could be unexpected things, like this unexpected cracking open of and realization of, like, oh my god, I didn't see this before. Also because of the Mercury Chiron conjunction, more stuff might be coming up to the surface for us to see and reevaluate, to understand that, okay, this is what was potentially preventing me, making me afraid, making me feel like I can't do it. Now I can look at it, I can identify it, and I can change it, because Mars is the ruler of Mercury and Chiron now in the sign of Aries. Mars is going for it. Mars is like unstoppable in Aries. It's full of fire. It's like, this is really where Mars is going to manifest what he wants, because he's in the sign of his rulership. And like I said, especially once Mars conjuncts the North Node. So yeah, new moon, and actually, yes, the full moon is going to be happening in conjunction with Uranus as well. So Sun will be in opposition with Uranus, but the moon will be in conjunction with Uranus. So this is going to be the continuum. So Uranus will keep pushing us to wake us up, to help us to break free, because now a brand new story is beginning. And with Jupiter moving into Gemini, you can decide what do you want that to be, and what you're going to decide depends on how you feel about yourself, how much you love and respect yourself and see yourself unworthy, and how much or how little you allow other people to determine that for you, because South Node is in Libra. That's what we need to evolve. We not use is not the right word, but I don't know what else to say. The other people serve us as the mirror to help us to learn about ourselves, but they don't serve us to determine. They serve us just to mirror and reflect. But once again, this is not what we were being told, right? So this is something that is changing. So all in all, I feel very positive about this new moon. I mean, always new beginning have the Aries archetype flavor. So it's about the potential, what this can bring, and it can be whatever you want. And because it is happening on Virgo Decan, on the second half, the second third of Taurus, Virgo Decan. It is about learning, because this is a continuation of our passage of growth. So it's just another chapter of our experience as human, helping us to learn something about ourselves and about life and stuff like that. So yeah, and 18 degrees 2 minutes, that's 9, and 2 is 11. So yeah, it's supported by the spirit too, because it's 11, master number frequency. And actually in Mexico it's taking place at 2121, which is free and free Jupiter, right? And 6 Venus balance. But yeah, 1 and 8, 9 endings, and then with the 2 duality, end of the duality, because we are remarrying with our higher self. Because like I said, without the spirit, the form couldn't be animated. The spirit, your higher self is always present, because once it isn't, the form will dissolve, right? It will no longer be animated. So anyway, guys, this is what I've got. I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm going to pull some cards now, and then we're going to close with that, because this video is already on 47 minutes. So I'm just going to, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull all the decks that I have, but we're going to pick up where we leave off in the practical application. But I am going to pull the Queen of the Moon, because of course it is a lunation. We already pulled the card with My Solstice Marisa in Stars and Cards. If you would like to hear more about that, you can check it out. It's on our YouTube channels, but I'm gonna pull another one here. So Queen of the Moon, message for the new moon in Taurus for next week. Okay, there is one poking out, blossoming, number 33. This is interesting because I had seen this card recently in someone's reading, and look at all this beautiful green color, all this beautiful green color. and number 33, which is interesting because I just said in Mexico it's happening at 2121, which is 3-3. And this is a card 33, Christ consciousness. And this is something we were strongly tapping into with Marisa because of the cards that came up for us during Stars and Cards about this heart consciousness. And actually, yes, when you take care of your needs and are able to reconnect with yourself and the heart opens, then it's much easier to connect to other people. You know, the hearts connect to heart, and you can see this person is doing something she loves, and all this blossoming, all these flowers. And of course Taurus is connected to nature. It rules everything to do with nature, and Venus in Taurus is very sensual. It's very connected to the nature, mother nature, and the beauty of everything that's natural. And this is a flower moon, full moon. I believe it must be one in the summer. We're gonna read about that. But yeah, look at all these beautiful flowers. You know, you were born to bloom. You were born to create and enjoy and love. And all this green, the heart chakra, connecting with the heart. 33, like I said, this is the Christ consciousness, the heart consciousness. That's what is being seeded to be born. Blossoming. Do not give up. You have planned for this. Take no notice of what others think or say about you, right? That's the externalization of the power, South Node in Libra. Open and rise. Someone around you might be jealous of your success. Mark your victories. And the affirmation is, I joyfully blossom and I feel no fear. In the country in which I live, there really aren't a lot of meadows, that classic kind of gently rolling open space, often between a forest and a mountain. This kind of space whispers to you, here, rest a while, lay down, my friend, is soft. The first true meadow I saw was in, this is about the author, that she saw the meadow outside of the United States. As far as I could see was a green meadow of grasses covered in blossoming flowers. It was so beautiful, it almost made me cry. I just stood there for a long while, taking it all in. It felt so hopeful and new and joyful. So I felt hopeful and renewed and joyful. And this is a new moon, so it brings hope. Like I said, it's got the Aries quality, even though it's in Taurus. Every new moon has a Aries quality because of the new beginning, looking at things differently, seeing things differently, the Mercury Chiron third conjunction. I walked into the meadow and I was soon surrounded by its blossoming. The flower fragrance drifted up in the breeze. There was a breeze, there was a dusting of pollen in my clothes. I could hear the contentment buzzing of a few insects. In that moment, I was so grateful to be part of the meadow. Anything seemed possible here. There is a time to blossom. We plant seeds, physically and metaphorically, so they will blossom into what we intend. Perhaps the journey has been a long and hard one, but we shouldn't give up, especially if we are close. Fear is usually the thing that prevents flow and blossoming. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of change, fear of what people think. I could go on, but no, if we can release the useless fears and begin to enjoy our growth and eventual blossoming, it will all be worthwhile. And the companion stone is ruby. So what do you want to blossom into? What are the intention of the seed that we want to grow? Because eventually this seed is going to blossom. It's going to bear fruit, whatever that is. So I think that's very profound. It's very interesting, even though this moon looks like a full moon on the card. I believe it must be the new moon, because she was talking about planting seeds, and this is a new moon, and it really looks like Taurus, doesn't it? Because also Venus likes things that give her joy. Venus likes music, even though it's more connected to Neptune because of the, music, art, and stuff like that. But Venus loves everything beautiful. Venus will love listening to it, music. So anyway, so yeah, what are we wanting to plant? So then we can see blossoming going forward, potentially with the full moon in Taurus. Okay, I have this one deck, which I never used before. It's called Gateway to Light Activation Oracle. It's from Kyle Gray, and I felt called to use it today. So let's see, it's absolutely stunning, this deck. and I never used it before. It's a brand new deck that it's not a new deck, but it's a new deck for me that I'm going to play with, but I really felt that I need to use this deck. So let's see what is the message in this deck for the new moon in Taurus. New moon in Taurus. Oh. I always struggle shuffling these big cards. I prefer the travel sizes. Okay, nothing is really coming out. One card, please, Spirit. Okay, let's try this one. Palladian activation. Coming together, harmony in heavens, and resolution. Wow. Look at all the beautiful light and the mandala in the middle and the circle. Like I said, you know, when we connect with our own heart, it's much easier to connect with the hearts of others. And that's what, like I said, was coming up for me and Marissa about the seeding of the heart consciousness. Connecting with ourselves, seeding the seeds that will bloom into something beautiful, creating more beauty, and all the green about healing. And here we have about coming together. And Palladians, they're all about healing. Okay, let's see what the book has to say, because like I said, I had never used this deck before. Palladian activation, coming together, harmony in the heavens, resolutions. The Pleiades, also known as the Seven Sisters, is the open star cluster found in the northwest of constellation Taurus. Ha! Isn't that interesting? These bright blue luminous stars, which formed in the last 100 million years, are among the stars closest to Earth and are the cluster most obvious to the naked eye. It is for this reason that they have been connected to many spiritual traditions through the ages. This gateway transports us to a space where we can witness the great coming together of Pleiades. Each and every single star within the cluster is representative of a nation of divine beings. The Pleiadians are said to be human-like beings who honor the feminine and live in the advanced way that we on earth could also experience if we were to accept and honor the holiness of female body. If we were able to travel to Pleiades in the third dimensional world, we would not find these beings, however, for they have transcended the physical state and operate on higher vibration. Your message, Palladian energy, is about coming together in peace and harmony. You are blessed to receive this gateway, for it is a powerful message of assurance that whatever uncomfortable energy you are experiencing right now will soon be washed away. The Palladians are beings who live in complete honor of their planets and their people. They acknowledge that in seeing and connecting with one another, they have the opportunity to see and experience the divine. They also know the consequences of disrespecting others. It's for this reason that this is no longer possible for them. If you are being challenged by loved ones now, aim to shift the dynamics of this relationship through a loving approach. The lesson you are facing at this time is an opportunity to heal old wounds and operate from a higher state of being. Wow, I think that's pretty spot on. And also, you know, Venus, especially Venus in Taurus, it's all about, like I said, connecting back to nature, connected to one another, about beauty, about creating something beautiful. And it is a very feminine energy, because Taurus is a feminine sign, it's earth. It's got the yin energy, the taking it inwards to discover who am I, how does this feel within me, how does it interact with my senses, sensual experience. And Venus, it's a feminine archetype, right? Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's a female body only, but Venus is the representation of the feminine. So it's interesting that this came up with the Pleiades. A lot of feminine energy, and this is also that it's been coming up a lot for many people about this divine feminine rising and about how important it is to connect with this feminine aspect of ourselves, the divine feminine. Whether you are a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. We all have aspects of this, the receptivity and the nurture, and open our heart, right? And again, I feel that this is so connected. And I mean, it looks like a big moon, doesn't it? It's like a big cluster of stars. It's beautiful. Okay, and I have one more deck. It's actually called the Sacred Earth because of the Taurus. And like I said, the connection to Earth and Gaia. I have one more deck, which again, I had never used before. It's a brand new deck. This is the very first time I'm going to be using it. And it's called the Sacred Earth Oracle. So let's see what Mama Gaia, what message she has for us with regards to this new moon in Taurus. Message from Gaia, from Mother Earth. Oh, okay, one flew out. Let's see. Productivity. Look, a mother and a child. And there is another mandala over there and another green background, just like in the first card. It's not that similar. Look here, actually, this is something we like to do, play, you know, and here you got a child, again, play, Leo archetype. Yeah, being a beautiful, it's kind of look like a meadow, definitely being in the forest and the archway. But it's interesting that there is this mandala and it's orange and purple. Orange, the sacral chakra, and the purple, the connection to the crown. So I feel like this card is technically these two merged together. Green, plain, blossoming, you know, the connectivity coming together. And then we have this birthing this new world, connecting with one another and nature. Okay, let's see what this card has to say. Because like I said, this is the first time I'm using this deck. I'm not familiar with it, but it was calling to me. Productivity. Okay, here we go. Earthly meaning. The energy and experiences you have been handed can be converted to meaningful, life-affirming outcomes. With a little work and perspective, an obstacle will become a stepping stone. Do what you can, when you can, and make steady progress. Effort is required to transform an idea, experience of knowing into something more solid, Taurus. Once it has form, new growth will follow. Just like Taurus. Spiritual meaning. The Divine Mother dwells in every heart. Her light is inside and all around you, for she is all that is beautiful throughout our world. She lives in every mountain, meadow, tree, and blade of grass. Her light illuminates the stars. Her wisdom guides the moons. Her brilliance flows from the sun. She is a wildflower whose perfume teases our senses to curiosity, action, and the pursuit of joyous life. Inside, golden sunlight splashes in generous waves over our planet. More than 300,000 species of plants transform this light into growth. Branches bloom, leaves unfurl, and blossoms, again blossoms, just like our blossoming card, right? Blossoms spring open to showcase bursts of yellow pollen. Birds, bees, and butterflies flit amongst the flowers, collecting yellow dust and carrying it even further afield and out into the world. It is busy work. Yellow is the energy fueling the living world. Its bright flamboyance is urgent, busy, and delightfully engaging. It attracts us through beauty and goes places on the wings of those seeking the sweet nectar of life. Yellow is joyfully, generously, creatively productive. Its energy readily becomes form, which in turn blooms into glorious celebration of itself. It is time to convert the lessons and experiences you have absorbed into life-giving creativity. Turn them into activity, into growth and into form. There is joy in productivity. Its nectar is sweetly intoxicating, and its fruit is a mark of transformation and completeness. Amen to that. Here's the card. Okay, and I'm just going to close with one major arcana from traditional Rider-Waite, and we leave it at that. Okay. So one flew out before I even shuffled, and it's the Strength, of course. Of course, it's the Strength. The number 8. What's at the bottom? The High Priestess. The High Priestess has a message for us. That's the moons. And here we go, the sun. And here we go, the sun and the moon. Strength, Leo, ruled by the sun, and the moon, the High Priestess. There is a message for us, and it's inside of us. The higher self is always helping us to navigate through life. It's about the reconnection with your body, right? And the Mother Earth, and coming together to create a better world for us all, all of us, and to be able to bloom and blossom into what we came here to be. Okay, guys, I'll leave it at that. I hope this makes sense. And yeah, once again, if you would like to, you can check out my collaboration with Marissa Stars and Cards, where we pulled some more cards on this new moon in Taurus, and my upcoming collaboration with Adrian, where we do chart analysis. So you can see the chart that's coming up probably on Monday, because we'll be recording it on Sunday. So I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.